Now we have Brendon, Granger, who I'd like to welcome forward, who will be sharing his perspective on technology in hotels. Brendon is a hotel technology expert with 30 years experience across hotels. And as a member of Technology for Hotels, he partners with properties to implement solutions that enhance guest experiences and performance. Brendon's recently returned from a trip to Indianapolis for the world's largest technology conference, HITEC, and we're excited to have him here today. Please welcome Chief Experience Officer at Technology for Hotels, Brendon Granger. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Sorry, I was a bit premature to this stage. I didn't realise Tom was going to do the introduction for me. Firstly, thank you to the QHA for having me here this morning. Absolute pleasure to be here. As Tom said, my name is Brendon Granger. Just to give you a little bit of background, 35 plus years in the hospitality industry, as you can see from the grey hair, 25 of those in the technology side, and about 14 years ago I founded a company called Technology for Hotels, and the purpose of that was to help hotels improve the guest experience and their bottom line through the use of technology. The other thing Tom didn't mention, one of the reasons I was in Indianapolis, I'm part of a global advisory group called Gain Advisors. I'm one of 28 advisors like myself around the world. We are a specialist travel and hospitality advisory group, and we work with hotel groups like Accor, we work with vendors like Muse, Stripe, Canary. We also get to work with a lot of startups in the technology space, which is the exciting part. So today what we're going to do is I want to look at technology. I want to look at technology, as I said, that's going to actually improve the guest experience and your bottom line. I'm going to go through some case studies. I want it to be valuable. I don't want to necessarily look at bright and shiny stuff, but there will be some bright and shiny stuff there as well, so don't worry. What I was going to do is I was going to get you to stand up, but I don't think that's very practical. So what I will do through show of hands is get you to give me a feel for where your business is on this tech journey as far as digitalization goes. Before I do that, the first thing I wanted to mention is all of the slides here are generated by AI. So look carefully. There is a little fault in one of the slides because AI is not perfect. I'll come to the end and I'll ask people if they can see what it is. Look at the hands. Okay, so just by a show of hands, who in their business is still traditional and paper-based? Who's willing to admit that? No one. That's great. Okay, so who would consider themselves to be dabbling in the digital space? You know, they've got some digital in, but there's still a long way to go? No one. Okay, fantastic. This is the right room then. I don't need to do anything. You guys are all got it. Who's got technology in place but feels that there's room for improvement? Good. Okay, fantastic. So that means that everybody who hasn't put up their hand either doesn't understand the question or you're in that last category, you've got it nailed. It's seamless, it's strategic, and you're already adding, you're adding value to the guest experience and you're seeing business value. So that's everyone here, pretty much, right? Has anybody spotted it yet? Cool, okay. All right, so before we look forward, I want to look back. In the last 40 years, believe it or not, we've actually come a long way. So when I went through hotel school, thank God Whitney had just been removed, okay? None of you have probably used a Whitney rack, but it was Whitney, and it was a big guest book that the guest would sign in. It was all paper-based. So we've moved towards property management systems, and now cloud-based property management systems, and we're now talking about AI and AI dashboards. So we have moved as an industry. We've adopted technology and it's taken us forward. Maybe not as quickly as some other industries, unfortunately, but what it has shown is each shift in technology has also meant a shift in our business. We've seen, just in my time, less errors, faster check-ins, more information collected on guests. So each of those phases is actually on the journey, taking us closer towards meeting guest expectations and running more efficient hotels. I wanted to talk about a couple of technologies which hotels are implementing, but I think there's still some low-hanging fruit. One of those, or the first one, is what vendors call it mobile check-in. I call it pre-arrival check-in. Okay, so what that is the ability for the guest to actually check in before they arrive. Effectively, they're doing the paperwork. Airlines have been allowing us to do this for years. It wasn't until we sort of came out of COVID that hotels said, maybe we should give the guests the choice. Guests want the choice, and I'll show you a case study where guests are definitely taking it up. The other thing that I think is a big thing is mobile key. So that is the ability to use your mobile phone to actually access your room, okay? So if you've pre-checked in and done the paperwork, why do you need to stop at the front desk and actually collect a key, okay? There have been some technology challenges up until now, but now Apple's on board and you can put the key in the Apple wallet, you can put the key in the Google wallet. It's gonna happen. A lot of hotels are now starting to put in kiosks, which is great. I think guests are ready for that self-service aspect. I'll caution you, I don't think it should be completely self-service. I believe kiosks have a place, but I think what is going to happen over the next 5 to 10 years is they will be phased out. As we move further and further towards mobile check-in and mobile key, why do we actually need a front desk? Why do we need a kiosk? I think of it a little bit like the banking industry. So internet banking's been around for a long time, but we had a generation that didn't like internet banking, would go into the bank or use an ATM. If you look now, banks are actually replacing ATMs. They're all, if you go to a shopping centre, you won't find a Westpac. There's a company that now is handling that space. I think kiosks will be similar. It's going to take a little while. So what I'm suggesting, if you're going to look at a kiosk solution now, make sure it's a hardware light solution. Something that doesn't require you to remodel the lobby now or remodel the lobby in 5, 8 years' time when you take it out. The other suggestion would be, if you are looking at kiosks, make sure you have an ambassador. Don't leave it to the guest to muddle their way through the check-in process on their own, all right? Even Bunnings have a greeter when you enter the front door. We should have the same. We should have somebody to greet you, somebody to help you through the process, or just to talk to you. There's a chain actually just been bought by Marriott, Citizen M, who have been doing this since 2007, and they've shown us the way. Their team are multi-skilled, so the same ambassador who helps you check in is actually a barista. And if you're a regular guest, then they go, Mr. Hammond, I know you've got this. What sort of coffee would you like? And they go off and make you a coffee. To me, that's hospitality, okay? So it's not about, using technology. Technology should be a service, and it shouldn't replace people at the end of the day. Okay, so all of those, that's good. What I want to talk about is another side of the industry's back-of-house technology, less visible but equally important. Over the last couple of years, we've seen the introduction of both housekeeping and engineering solutions. In my mind, there are still far too many hotels that are using paper for this, but with SaaS-based technology, cloud-based technology, it's more cost-effective and very easy to implement. So from a housekeeping point of view, what does it mean? Faster turnaround times for rooms to be ready. That improves the guest experience. From an engineering point of view, of course, starting to monitor the faults that you've actually got, making sure that they get sorted. You can do program preventative maintenance, making sure that the rooms have more uptime. I can't stress the importance of going digital. Let me give you a little example. We were working with a hotel in Sydney during COVID. I know we shouldn't mention COVID. But it was a quarantine hotel, and we helped them digitise both guest requests and maintenance. So it was only 144 rooms, but they were getting 154 requests from guests a day, just ringing down, I want this, I want this. The number one category, believe it or not, you can believe it, was bottle openers. All right, guests were wanting to open wine and beer. They didn't have them in the room. So the staff were running up and down forever with the short number of bottle openers they had, moving them from room to room. When that first wave of guests left, they went out and invested $2 per room for a bottle opener. So that category was completely removed. Next wave of guests didn't ever request one. The other thing that was happening when housekeeping were cleaning the rooms, they were obviously noting any faults. At the end of the month, the engineer noticed downlights, huge number of replacements required. So he went to their supplier and said, look, I think we've got an issue. They confirmed, yes, you got a faulty batch and we're actually going to replace that at no cost. Obviously, the team said, hey, if we were using paper-based systems, post-it notes and whatever we used to use, there's no way we would have been able to identify that trend. So that's just one simple advantage of using digital. You'll notice a little robot in the corner, generated by AI. We are starting to see robots come into hotels as well, mainly in the cleaning area in the Australian market. So I've worked with Marriott Adelaide. They've got a robot that actually will clean this function room. It'll vacuum the corridors. It'll do the lobby as well. Does the lobby every morning, just so that people can see it. And so those robots are now starting to pull their weight. They're returning. They've got a return on investment. They're there to support the team. They're not designed to replace the team. You know, vacuuming a corridor is quite a boring task. The robot will do it happily, do a much better job, I hate to say, than a human, and will do it every day. Or even there's a property in Sydney, which I think they're doing the corridors 3 times a day. Not so much in Australia, but in Asia, we're seeing those robots actually do deliveries, room service deliveries and the like as well. You should check it out. There's one in New Zealand called Harry at the M Social. He's been employed for about 2 years, hasn't taken a day off, doesn't request overtime. He makes about 30 deliveries a day up to the rooms. It's only 144 rooms. He even delivers cables and pens and stuff up to function rooms. The team now love him, and the guests certainly love him. Two quick things, I suppose. I'm talking about technology, but I want to highlight that not all technology is equal. And the other thing, technology in its own right is rarely the sole solution. You need to take your team on a journey. Even the world's best technology, if it's not supported by senior management and picked up by your associates, it's not going to deliver anything for you. Once you get it right, technology should actually remove friction and give your staff time and space to deliver great service. And I think that's where the value comes in. All right, I wanted to look at some case studies. Okay, let's get practical about this. The first property is the Elements of Byron, a luxury beachside resort in Byron Bay. Their challenge, they wanted to streamline that guest experience. You know, guests are there for a holiday. They didn't want them necessarily waiting at the front desk, going through that formal process. They also wanted to add what they call add-ons, or the GM calls. So just under 2 years ago at No Vacancy in Sydney, I had a coffee with the general manager, and he was telling me this, and I said, you should look at Canary Technologies. Now, you can see on the screen, I'm not going to read it, you can. They've got a number of modules from Canary Technologies. Mobile check-in and upsells are the two that I'll cover off. So what is mobile check-in? It is the ability for the guest to basically do the paperwork before they arrive. The way it works is about 48 hours before the guest is due to arrive, they receive a message. It can be a text, it can be a WhatsApp, and it can be an email on their own device, inviting them to check in. It's not compulsory, but as you can see, 75% of the guests actually take it up. The process is really simple. They don't need to download anything. It takes about a minute. They give a form of ID, they provide credit card details, and they sign a digital registration card. At the same time, and I think this is the key thing, they're at home sitting on the couch, they get offered upsells, as we call it, but as the GM calls it, add-ons. In the case of Elements by Byron, they are things like early check-in, wine and cheese tastings, champagne in the room. Some of the other properties we work with, they've got things like room upgrades, breakfast as an option, or something even as simple as car parking. The net result, and this property saw an increase of $250,000 worth of revenue in less than 2 years just via these upsells. It's about 25% of guests take it up. My view is by the time the guest gets to the property and the front desk team member tries to upsell them, it's too late. It's like when you're at McDonald's and you know what you want and they keep telling you, would you like this? No, it's too late. The other thing, this property, the return on investment for the cost of the solution was 29 days. So was the GM happy? Very happy. He put it in a month after we had a chat at No Vacancy. The month after he gave me a call, and he was just elated that 75% of his guests are using it, and it literally paid for itself. We've got hotels in Sydney doing that as well, which achieved the same sort of ROI, about 30 days. The next case study is from the Crown Plaza in Perth. So they'd always prioritised guest messaging, but the previous solution they were using was manual and time consuming. So once again, I suggested they look at the Canary technology solution. They're just using the messages module. I don't know why, but they should be going towards mobile check-in and upsells. That's probably next. So the Canary solution is automated and integrated. So let me explain that. It's integrated with the Oracle property management system so that there's no rekeying of data. All the guest information, email, mobile phone numbers is within the solution. It's automated in such a way that they can send a broadcast message to everybody arriving today with one keystroke. The other form of automation is AI. So if one of those guests writes back and says, hey, by the way, what time is check-in? Or do you have a gym? Do you have a pool? The AI picks up that request and it responds immediately. The AI is able to answer 70 to 80% of those frequently asked questions. So what was the end result for this property? A 40% reduction in administration from the team. They're now using the system to send pre-arrival messages, in-stay messages to check guest sentiment. Are guests happy? Tell us about any issues you've got before you check out so we can rectify them. And they're sending post-stay messages as well. The post-stay messages had a significant impact. Since they've been doing that, they've seen a skyrocket in the number of TripAdvisor reviews. It's gone up by double. More importantly though, they're more positive than they used to be. And they put that down to two things. The team having more time with guests, so they're providing better service. And secondly, the AI responding more timely to guests. I tested out the system here with Marriott yesterday. It was good. It was good. I got a response to my message on the Bonvoy app within about 4 minutes. If it was AI, it's 30 seconds or so. The third case study is from a Brisbane property, Royal on the Park, and the team are here. So Royal on the Park were early adopters in tablets. About 8 years ago, they put tablets into the guest rooms. Those tablets had a compendium on them and they had in-room dining or room service. But obviously, like all technology, things move, things change. I've come across properties that put tablets in 2 years ago and then taken them out. Why? Because they become costly to maintain and labour intensive. And that's exactly what Royal on the Park found. So we introduced them to a QR code-based solution called Sava, which the guest uses on their own device. They don't need to download anything. It looks and feels like an app, but it's not. It's just a QR code. They can use it before they arrive. They can use it during their stay, on property and off property. When you think of a tablet, you can only use it in the room. The property's got a pool. I can easily scan a QR code up at the pool. I can order a hamburger, I can order a beer. I may even be at a meeting and I say, I forgot to tell them that basically my shower's not working, it's whatever. I can send a request from wherever I am, letting the property know. The end result for the property was a 90% reduction in annual costs. We also improved productivity of the team because no longer did they need to support or maintain these 153 tablets. From a guest point of view, guests pick the system up, love it. As we said, they can use it at any point in time. They can use it both in the room and anywhere else within the property as well. The last case study I've got here was a global hotel group. It was 45 properties in the Asia Pacific region. What they were looking to do was improve hotel operations and guest feedback. They installed a hotel operations and guest quality solution called BPN. There's a couple of modules they installed, a digital duty manager logbook. I'll just call it a duty manager logbook from now on, it's hard to say. Courtesy call module and QR code feedback. The digital duty manager logbook, I said I wouldn't say that. The DM logbook is the core module. It receives all issues related to guests from the QR code feedback. So the QR code feedback could be in the room, it could be in the restaurant. You're asking guests for feedback. Anything negative gets fed into the duty manager logbook. It also integrates with products like Medallia, Revenate and Trust You. So all feedback is is in that. The goal of the group was to be proactive, not reactive. In 90 days, they actually achieved a 3.2% increase in their medallia scores, which is fantastic. The other thing that they were able to do is get a feel for how much they were spending on comps on a monthly basis. Prior to this, they really didn't have a baseline, okay? Once you start measuring something, you can manage it. So they've done that. $850, if you're wondering, US, was the benchmark. So what we find is once they know that, they can improve on that by 15 to 20% easily. The other thing that they saw was from a management point of view, across the 45 properties, regional managers can actually cross-reference properties. They can see how properties are doing. And at a property level, department heads are saving 10 to 14 hours a week because the reports that they were previously producing are actually automated within the product itself. So there's some case studies. As Tom said, I want to pick up on some trends that came out of HITEC. HITEC is considered to be still the biggest and the best hotel technology show in the world. It's in its 53rd year. It's always in North America. This year it was in Indianapolis. There were 6,000 attendees and 360 exhibitors. So if you've been to No Vacancy, think of No Vacancy times 3, and it's only technology. There's no one selling beds or furniture. There's a couple of key messages. The first one is it wasn't shiny, flashy technology or gadgets. The message that I got out of it is that the future of hospitality is more about working smarter, not harder. As you would imagine, AI featured very heavily in a lot of the discussions. There were a couple of key points. We're at a point with AI now where we're moving from basic chatbots that we've got on websites and etc. to agent-based or agentic-based AI. And I'll explain that in a minute. But there were tools there that could complete sales RFPs from end to end. Still early days, and there were also some dynamic rate tools as well. But it's just a guide on where we're heading. Just to explain standard AI versus agentic AI or AI agents, you probably heard ChatGPT has a product called Operator. It is an agent that will literally do things for you. So just to give you an example, let's just say I went to chat and I said, hey, I'm going to be in Brisbane 15th to 17th. I'm at a conference at the Marriott. I want to stay close to the conference. I happen to be a Bonvoy member. Can you recommend something? So it basically goes out. It would tell me that there's 3 Marriott properties in the area. It would give me some indicative rates. It got it wrong, let me tell you that. It would be looking at Expedia and Booking.com, and it would come back with some rates, and then it would say something like, when you're ready to book, let me know and I'll sort of guide you through the process. Agentic AI, or an AI agent, will literally do the whole process for you. Now, they don't exist now. Everybody's working on it, but there's nothing that can do it end to end. It stops at certain points and says, okay, now you need to tell me your credit card. Now you need to tell me your Marriott Bonvoy number. Now you need to click that box that says you're not a robot. So it can't do the whole process, but it is coming. It's interesting for hoteliers because what it's going to mean is that people will not necessarily be booking rooms. It'll be AI that are booking rooms. So your website needs to be AI friendly. So something to look at. The other conversations around AI were obviously around responsible AI, okay? The world needs to, but as an industry, we need to make sure that we've got transparency, that we've got trust, and that we've got human oversight built in as well, okay? We'll touch on cybersecurity in a minute, but it's a real issue, obviously. We've had hacks. Qantas had one the other day. So, we need to make sure that guests trust what we're doing. So that's a big issue. All the talk about AI, obviously, it's making waves, and there's no doubt about that. But I want you to keep in mind that AI is only as good as the data that you give it. If you have no data, then it's not going to do anything. Just to give you a really simple example, a colleague of mine who used to be the CIO for Coca-Cola, he was approached by an airline to help them. And they said, we want you to help us with AI predict what meals passengers want. And he said, great. Have you got the information? Yes, we've got the information. He said, okay, do you really have the information? And they're like, yes. Okay. Do you know how many people got the fish that wanted chicken? And they said, no. And he said, until you've got that, AI is not going to be able to give you anything different than what you've got. It'll tell you exactly the same result. So that's something to keep in mind. And there was a conversation obviously at HITEC around that as well. In hotels, we generally have lots of information, but it's in silos. We've got information in the point of sale, we've got information in the property management system, we've got information in sales and catering, but how do we bring it all together so that we can look at it in like one pane of glass? There are products out there called middleware that are helping us break down those silos. Middleware. The last topic, no, it wasn't the last topic. Cybersecurity obviously featured. With more tech comes more risk. Probably the key thing around cybersecurity, it's not just the responsibility of the CIO or the IT department. It is a responsibility of everyone. So as hoteliers, we need to have policies and training in place for all staff. There was a hotel in Sydney that had an incident in March, which cost them dearly. It came down to a staff member clicking something on an email. Okay, nothing that the CIO could have done. It's really an educational training issue. The very last trend that came out is that we are moving from reward points to loyalty-based rewards. So think Marriott, what they're doing with the Australian Open. If you're a Bonvoy member, you can now get access to premium events at the Australian Open, stuff like that. So we've looked at some case studies, we've looked at some trends. The question is, where do you start? Here are my suggestions. Obviously, I think start off by identifying a couple of key business challenges. Look at solutions and consider whether IT is a solution. It is not always a solution. I have many hotels call me and say, this is the problem. And it's like, IT can't handle that. It's really a policy change that's actually required. Evaluate the solutions. Make sure you've got a strong bias on business benefit and ROI. You need to make sure that whatever you implement will at least maintain status quo from your team's point of view and your guest point of view. If not, improve the guest experience. And I talked about kiosks and ambassadors. I've seen hotels that have installed kiosks and then I've gone and I've seen guests bumble their way through it. To me, that's not improving the guest experience. You're detracting from it. And this was a luxury 5-star hotel with rates, $450 to $500 a night. It was actually embarrassing. You need to put in place a program for the tech and obviously the team as well, as I said before. The world's best technology will not deliver any benefit if no one uses it. Okay, there's plenty of tech out there. I think the magic is basically in identifying which tech is going to deliver the best return for your investment. And that's where, obviously, you can get guidance or help. Often I find hotels are too close to the day-to-day and can't see the full picture. So working with somebody who understands the technology and understands your industry can fast-track better outcomes. As we get ready to wrap up, I believe that technology doesn't replace hospitality, and I hope I've shown you that today. It enhances it. When it's used well, it gives your team more time, your guests a better experience, and it delivers better outcome. I'll just leave you with this thought. In my mind, technology is no longer optional. It's the difference between keeping up and standing out. And when done right, as I said, it enhances the guest stay, empowers your team, and I think I've shown you this, it more than pays for itself. Thank you for your time. If you wanted to continue the conversation, feel free to scan the QR code. That is me as an AI. That's what AI thinks I look like. It will take you to a link. There's a couple of ways. LinkedIn is a really good one. I just want to highlight, I do 2 things on LinkedIn. Every Friday we put out a podcast which is generated by AI. It is a weekly news briefing. It goes for about, it depends on how much news there is, but 10 to 15 minutes. It's a wrap of everything that's happened. Openings, closures, investments, technology. It is, you'll find the link on LinkedIn. You can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. I also sit down and do a face-to-face with industry leaders. It's called 5-Star Conversations. The one that's currently running at the moment was actually with Jason Newell, the Regional Vice President for Australia, New Zealand, and the Pacific for Marriott. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Brendon. Such an engaging presentation, and really looking forward to following you on your socials and getting around some